A petty criminal looking for an easy score breaks into an expensive car, only to find out the ride is actually a clever, high-tech trap set by a vigilante hungry for justice.
I've certainly done a lot of truly messed up things, but I've never actually killed anyone at all.
The movie opens in an auto repair shop, where we find the van belonging to down-on-his-luck courier Eddie Burrish. The guy doesn't have the money to pay for the repairs, so the owner refuses to give him back the car. Without it, Eddie won't be able to pick up his daughter Sarah from school for the weekend, which his ex-wife finds out about. When his attempts to convince the mechanic to show some compassion fail, Eddie decides to swipe a wallet that's lying around. To do this, he almost starts a fight with some careless remarks. He leaves the shop with his loot, but inside there are only a few bills. Eddie glances around, looking for anything of value that's been left unattended. Like a surgeon with a heart of gold, he wants to make those valuables walk away. His last attempt to avoid antisocial behavior is to call up acquaintances to borrow some cash, but no one believes him. In a fit of desperation, he hits rock bottom, buying lottery tickets. A random passerby, mistaking him for a homeless guy, hands him another bill. Disappointed, the guy wanders through the alleys, tugging at car doors to see if any are unlocked. In one car, he finds a dog sitting inside, and he feeds and gives it water through the slightly open window. When Eddie gets a call from his daughter, upset that her dad hasn't visited her, the guy notices a fancy Dulles car parked in the yard. To his surprise, the door is unlocked. Eddie, hardly believing his luck, gets inside. He rummages around the interior looking for the keys, but only finds a pair of stylish Terminator Nightmare sunglasses. Spotting someone outside who might be the car's owner, Eddie wants to get out to avoid trouble, but it turns out the doors are now locked. In a futile attempt to gain his freedom before he's caught and loses it for good, Eddie climbs into the back seat. He tries to break the windows with his hands and feet, but they turn out to be stronger than his moral principles and withstand all the blows of fate. Eddie tries to activate the car's control system when a call comes through on the dashboard. The thief doesn't listen. He finds a wrench in the trunk and tries to break the window with it, unaware that someone is watching him through the cabin cameras. With the persistent ringing of the call in the background, the crook pries open the door panel with the wrench. His attempt to manually unlock the door ends with him cutting his hand. Ignoring the persistent ringing, Eddie pries at the upholstery and runs into an armored casing that can't be opened with makeshift tools. When he tries to call for help, he realizes the upholstery is blocking the signal. Realizing he has no other choice, Eddie answers the call from the unknown number. When he starts mouthing off, the person on the other end, named William, activates an electric shock in the seat, making it clear to the thief that he's completely in control of the situation. The car owner admits that his car has been broken into 6 times and not a single criminal has been arrested. He wants to talk to Eddie, but when Eddie realizes the owner won't open the door, he pulls a gun out of his bag. A shot at the bulletproof glass ricochets. The bullet hits the unlucky bandit in the leg. Wounded, Eddie tries to get the attention of a girl outside, but she just uses the window as a mirror to touch up her lipstick. Tying off his leg with a hoodie string to keep from bleeding out, the thief begs the owner to call 911, but he refuses. Turning in a petty criminal to the police is a waste of time. William admits he's fed up with the authorities' inaction. Being a wealthy doctor, he created Dulles as a trap, which Eddie fell right into. He wants to explain to the thief that antisocial behavior is unacceptable. A small electric shock is just a tiny part of that explanation. However, the victim loses consciousness from blood loss. Eddie comes to in the evening. His wounds have been treated and bandaged by the experienced William. The guy searches his backpack for water and food, forced to lick the chip bag, the only food available. On Saturday morning, William calls again and answers the call himself, not waiting for Eddie's reaction. The captor tells him that he bought a house nearby with his daughter. The prisoner doesn't want to listen to his chatter. William punishes Eddie with electric shocks and by turning on the air conditioner along with music. The torture with noise and cold lasts all day, slowly driving Eddie insane. He begs for the music and the AC to be turned off, but the captor is unyielding. Only late in the evening does William call again. Eddie apologizes for his rudeness, promising not to do it again. The captor silently turns off the AC and the player, allowing the prisoner to rest. Eddie greets Sunday morning by peeing into a bottle. Then he resumes his attempts to break his way out, as fruitless as trying to get rich honestly. When William gets in touch, the guy, peering out the window, spots the silhouette of his tormentor on the balcony of a high-rise. The prisoner reminds him that if he dies, there will be a problem with the body. He also recalls Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. His reference to the classic is that committing murder will drive William insane. On top of everything else, there's a hint of class resentment between the poor guy from the street and the rich man who can build a unique car. Eddie says that even though he has a gun in his backpack, he would never actually kill anyone, but right now he's dying of thirst and hunger. The owner retorts that he doesn't have much time left either. Cancer will finish him off soon. That's why, before he dies, William wants to do something useful in a society where the police are powerless and to carry out justice himself. When the owner mentions that in some countries they cut off a hand for stealing, Eddie says that's a myth. There, they put you in prison. Only repeat offenders might have 4 fingers cut off. William proposes a deal. He'll check the prisoner's records, and if he hasn't been caught stealing before, he'll let him go. But if Eddie is a repeat offender, the owner will cut off 4 of his fingers before letting him go. Eddie refuses. Angrily, he reminds them that laws are written by the rich for the rich, while the poor are miserably exploited. His socialist statements irritate William. The interlocutor cuts off the conversation by turning on the music. In the evening, he also turns on the heat, forcing the prisoner to undress from the heat and lick the glass hatch in a desperate hope to reach the raindrops. In a fit of despair, Eddie is ready to drink his own urine, but in the end, he can't bring himself to do it. William, who has been watching him, gets in touch. He offers a bottle of water and to turn off the heat in exchange for Eddie's full name and social security number. The prisoner is forced to agree. It turns out the bottle of water had been hidden under the passenger seat the whole time. At night, as he's getting ready to sleep, Eddie finds the last lottery ticket in his pocket. After scratching off the protective layer, he starts laughing. William asks what made him laugh. The prisoner admits that he won $500, the exact amount he needed. Eddie asks the owner for forgiveness for having tried to take his property. However, the owner doesn't show any compassion, but instead rewards his efforts. He opens the glove compartment, where there are some cookies. As the thief grabs the food, he notices an electrical circuit in the car's opening. Their conversation is interrupted by a phone call. The owner is being called for work. Noticing that the man on the balcony is leaving, the prisoner tests his theory. He makes obscene gestures at the camera. When William doesn't react, Eddie realizes that he's not watching him at the moment, and breaks open the panel under the glove compartment. Sticking his phone into the hole, he takes a picture of the device's wiring. Estimating where the switch might be, Eddie tries to turn it off, but breaks a nail in a futile attempt. His second attempt is interrupted by an electric shock. William has returned. Monday arrives. Sitting in the passenger seat, Eddie, taking advantage of the camera's blind spot, tries to reach the circuit breaker with his foot. Tormented by hunger and thirst, he finally decides to drink his own urine. To do this, he has to pinch his nose. He also sees the father teaching his daughter how to ride a bike in the yard. A small joy of life that Eddie never shared with his own daughter. In the evening, he fiddles with the starter button. Suddenly, the car starts. Encouraged by this unexpected success, Eddie tries the other buttons, but he can't unlock the doors. He manages to get the car moving before William remotely takes control. The owner rolls the wheelbarrow out onto the road to get a prisoner, who's lost more than just his freedom, a ride. William shows the conman the streets, filled with outcasts and drifters, lamenting that the authorities do nothing about it, while ordinary people are forced to bar their homes with grills. Then Dulles picks up speed, scaring his passenger with a frayed seatbelt. But the driver isn't planning to cause an accident. He takes Eddie to an alley where 2 thugs are beating up a man. On cue, William draws the attention of a punk with a gun tucked in his waistband, who isn't afraid of witnesses. Then the owner runs him over with the car and chases his partner, cornering him in a dead end. Even though Eddie begs him to spare the criminal, Dulles slowly and sadly presses the thug against the grate. Eddie says he's learned his lesson. If scum have thrown out the law, then William can do the same. The car backs up, and the owner offers a deal. If the wounded man gets up, he'll let the captive go. But the driver didn't wait for the outcome, smashing the bandit's skull against the grate with the hood. William starts a session of Need for Speed Underground, tearing through the streets and breaking all the rules. Poor Eddie realizes that if there's a crash, he's done for. Rescuers wouldn't even be able to cut Dulles open to help him. The car drives up onto the roof of a multi-level parking garage, dangerously picking up speed and risking a fall. At the last moment, the car brakes at the edge. The momentum throws Eddie forward. He hits his head on the dashboard and loses consciousness. The guy came to on Tuesday morning from a call from William. He says that he visited Eddie's wife and daughter. The captor accuses the prisoner of being selfish, saying he doesn't value his family, didn't pay child support, and lost his parental rights. But words alone aren't enough for William. He stops near Sarah's school, then slowly follows the girl, ignoring her father's pleas. When Sarah crosses the street, Dulles speeds up. Missing her, the driver turns the car around for another attempt. Sarah tries to escape on her scooter, but falls. Eddie grabs a gun and shoots himself to prove he's not selfish. But the gun isn't loaded. William swerves, running over the scooter at the last moment. He is satisfied that the prisoner is willing to sacrifice himself for his daughter. The car drives around the city while the passenger processes what just happened. Then Eddie starts ripping out the surveillance cameras to deprive William of his eyes. Even electric shocks don't stop him. In the end, he smashes the control panel. After that, Eddie records a farewell message to his daughter, but he can't send it. There's no signal. The ride ends at a remote parking lot, where there's only one car. William himself steps out from there. Cracking open Dulles' window, the owner introduces himself to Eddie. In response to the prisoner's justified aggression, the owner activates electric shocks in the seat. The old man orders the prisoner to tie his hands to the bar under the seat with zip ties, and then opens the doors. He puts a bag of tools on the back seat and gets behind the wheel himself. Taking a swig of whiskey from his flask, William starts a casual conversation, saying, "Don't be afraid, Eddie, I'm not going to eat you." Then he loads his pistol and offers Eddie a joint to smoke. William brought it especially for his companion. The driver pours some candies onto the dashboard so the prisoner can have a snack. They have a long road ahead. William starts the car and, accompanied by classical music, drives down the night highway, farther and farther from the city. On the way, Eddie asks what the old man's plan is. After finding out there is no plan, he notices a child's bracelet on William's wrist with his daughter's name on it. The captor teases his tormentor about it, and in response, William slams on the brakes so that the criminal's face smashes into the dashboard from the inertia. William admits that once they were attacked by robbers who shot his daughter. Eddie laughs, telling the old man that he's not a fighter for justice, but a psychopath hiding his sadistic tendencies behind the memory of his daughter. If she were alive, she'd be ashamed of her father. The driver threatens the passenger with a gun, but he doesn't back down. Distracting him, Eddie uses his foot to reach the switch and cuts the power to the car. In the darkness of the night, the old man loses control, and the car flies off the road. Reflexively pulling the trigger, the owner sends a bullet flying chaotically. The bullet ricochets and ends up lodging in his own shoulder. Dulles, after jumping over the fence, falls off the cliff. At dawn on Wednesday, Eddie, his face battered, comes to his senses at the sound of a phone. Once he got a signal, he sent a message. Seizing the pistol, the former captive is ready to kill his tormentor, but he's distracted by a phone call from Sarah. She's worried about the message. Eddie says he's fine, but a fire is already starting under the car's hood. He promises his daughter he'll come for her during the day, then tells William to open the door. But the dying old man refuses. One way or another, he has achieved his goal. Eddie grabs a hammer from the tool bag and tries to break the cracked rear window. The guy manages to get out before the flames engulf the car along with the justice-seeking William's body. The former captive climbs up the slope back to the highway, savoring his newfound freedom. A pickup truck passes by, and the driver picks up the injured guy. Once he gets to town, Eddie heads straight to the workshop for the van. The lottery winnings are enough to pay off the debt. However, he has to wait about 40 minutes. Time he doesn't have, since his daughter is already waiting by the school. Not wanting to disappoint Sarah, Eddie sells the van to the mechanic and instead buys a pink bicycle that's been sitting in the warehouse. He rides it to the school to meet his daughter. As he hugs her, the man can't hold back his tears from all he's been through. That's where the movie ends.